When Mercedes publicly stated they couldn't wish for a better number one, it sent ripples through the Formula One world. At first glance, the comment seemed like routine praise. But within the high-stakes world of elite motorsport, every word matters. The statement followed a dominant performance by George Russell, coupled with rising speculation over Lewis Hamilton's long-term role at the team. Mercedes has long been known for managing a delicate balance between its drivers, but 2025 has shifted that equilibrium. Russell's consistency, technical feedback, and mental resilience are placing him firmly in the spotlight, not just as a co-leader, but possibly the leader. Meanwhile, Hamilton, the seven-time world champion, continues to bring experience and media presence, but questions linger about his future ambitions and team dynamics. The remark wasn't just praise for Russell, it was a signal. In the ever-political world of Formula One, it may mark a subtle redefinition of roles within the team. Mercedes, once built around Hamilton, may now be evolving toward a new era, with Russell at its core. George Russell's journey to Mercedes wasn't a sudden leap. It was a carefully plotted ascent through the sport's most competitive channels. From his early days in karting to his championship in Formula 2, Russell demonstrated a rare blend of speed, discipline, and strategic thinking. When Mercedes placed him at Williams, it was more than a training ground. It was a test of adaptability under pressure. Russell's 2020 Sakir Grand Prix performance, when he nearly won while substituting for Hamilton, was the moment that redefined expectations. Once he officially joined Mercedes in 2022, he gradually grew into a central figure, not by overpowering Hamilton, but by quietly delivering under difficult circumstances. Technical consistency, clean racing, and clear feedback have become his trademarks. Unlike many young drivers, Russell focuses not just on performance, but on leadership, embracing media, team collaboration, and long-term development. In 2025, his maturity has begun to outshine his age. For Mercedes, he represents a bridge, young enough to evolve, yet focused enough to lead. His rise wasn't loud, but it has become impossible to ignore. Lewis Hamilton's legacy at Mercedes is unmatched. Together they achieved one of the most dominant eras in motorsport history. But legacy doesn't shield anyone from the passing of time. In 2025, Hamilton continues to race with undeniable skill and insight, but the sport around him is changing, and so is his position within it. The team dynamics are no longer centered solely around his vision. George Russell's performance has created a shift in internal priorities. Hamilton, ever the competitor, has voiced both pride and frustration. Publicly, he supports Russell. Privately, the growing sentiment is that he seeks clearer assurances of his influence within the team. Mercedes now faces a unique challenge: how to honor a legend while preparing for the future. Hamilton's influence on car development, race strategies, and fan engagement remains invaluable. Yet, the urgency for a new direction is evident. Hamilton isn't fading, but he's no longer the sole focus. The tension lies not in conflict, but in transition, a quiet rebalancing of roles within one of F1's most iconic pairings. Toto Wolff, the architect behind Mercedes's dominance, now faces one of his most delicate challenges. Managing two highly capable but vastly different drivers in George Russell and Lewis Hamilton requires both emotional intelligence and strategic foresight. Wolff has always maintained a philosophy of equal opportunity, but equal does not mean identical. With Russell's rise, Wolff must navigate evolving team dynamics without fracturing unity. He understands the symbolic weight Hamilton carries, the brand value, the fan base, the legacy. But he also recognizes Russell as the embodiment of Mercedes' future. Wolff's recent praise of Russell wasn't just appreciation. It was strategic framing. By publicly reinforcing Russell's value, he's subtly preparing the team and the world for a potential shift in leadership. Internally, Wolff must ensure that Hamilton feels respected, even as Russell assumes more responsibility. This balancing act is more than politics. It's performance management at its highest level. In F1, the right words can stabilize a season or derail one. Wolff knows that harmony is fragile, and 2025 may be his toughest test yet. The garage is where theory becomes reality. Engineers and strategy teams operate at the intersection of data, intuition, and driver feedback. At Mercedes, the support around George Russell has quietly intensified. Strategy simulations increasingly factor in his preferred driving style. Engineering choices, from tire management to energy deployment, are being tailored more precisely to his inputs. This isn't favoritism, it's responsiveness to results. Russell's feedback loop has proven accurate, especially in qualifying setups and late race decisions. Meanwhile, Hamilton's team remains formidable, but subtle shifts in attention have not gone unnoticed. Engineers speak of Russell's calm during debriefs, his adaptability to car evolution, and his growing influence in pre-race strategy discussions. The data favors Russell in consistency metrics, especially on circuits demanding tire preservation and corner stability. As margins tighten at the top, teams naturally gravitate toward what delivers. The garage isn't declaring a new number one, but its day-to-day operations are beginning to align with a new performance leader. In F1, such shifts start in whispers and end in defining outcomes. Across the paddock, rivals are watching Mercedes' internal dynamic with keen interest. Teams like Red Bull and Ferrari see opportunity in any potential instability, while drivers assess the power balance between Russell and Hamilton. Max Verstappen, firmly established at Red Bull, remains publicly indifferent, but insiders report he views Russell as a long-term threat, someone whose measured style could challenge even his aggression. Charles Leclerc, navigating Ferrari's own structural changes, has praised Russell's rise as a sign of the sport's generational shift. Behind closed doors, teams have begun to plan for scenarios where Hamilton eventually exits or steps back. Driver markets are shifting accordingly. Sponsors, too, are paying attention. Russell's clean image and sharp intellect make him increasingly attractive to brands looking for a new ambassador. The grid doesn't just respond to lap times, it responds to signals. And Mercedes' signals suggest a future increasingly shaped by George Russell. For now, harmony remains. But in the razor-thin margins of Formula One, perception can become momentum, and momentum, power. Outside the paddock, the media plays a powerful role in shaping how driver hierarchies are understood. In 2025, George Russell's image has grown rapidly, from promising talent to respected contender. Headlines have shifted. No longer framed as Hamilton's understudy, Russell is now spoken of as a team leader in his own right. Interviews highlight his precision, professionalism, and control under pressure. Fans, too, are noticing. Social engagement around Russell's races, data insights, and post-session commentary has risen sharply. Hamilton remains a global icon, his following vast, his voice influential. But even among his supporters, there's acknowledgement of change. The contrast between Hamilton's fire and Russell's focus creates a compelling narrative, one that media outlets use to spark debate and drive clicks. Even radio message. Every podium photo, every strategic call becomes a talking point. In this environment, perception is not just a reflection, it's a weapon. Mercedes may not declare a new number one officially, but public opinion is already drawing its own conclusions. And those conclusions carry weight. George Russell's demeanor remains one of his greatest strengths. Unlike some young drivers who burn bright but fade fast, Russell has built his career with patience and clarity. His responses to pressure are calculated, not reactionary. He approaches setbacks analytically, turning frustration into data. This mindset has allowed him to adapt quickly, especially during seasons of regulation change and technical uncertainty. In 2025, his mental approach is proving as valuable as his physical talent. During high-pressure races, rain-affected starts, strategic gambles, late safety cars, Russell has remained composed. He doesn't chase headlines or demand authority. Instead, he lets results speak. That silence, in a sport dominated by noise, is becoming his signature. Teammates, rivals, and staff describe him as low drama, high impact. He avoids public disputes and focuses on what moves performance forward. In the long-term game of F1, these qualities build trust, and trust builds leadership. Russell may not have asked to be the number one, but through preparation, attitude, and consistency, he's earning it. One race, one session, one decision at a time. Lewis Hamilton has always understood that F1 is a sport of cycles. He's witnessed teammates come and go, empires rise and fall. In 2025, he faces the reality that every champion eventually encounters, the rise of the next generation. But Hamilton's approach isn't one of resistance, it's one of control. He has never feared competition. What he values is clarity, of role, direction, and respect. Sources close to Hamilton suggest that he's fully aware of Russell's ascent. He doesn't see it as a threat, but as a challenge to remain relevant, competitive, and influential. However, he also demands fairness. Hamilton's contributions go beyond racecraft. His understanding of tire evolution, energy deployment, and car setup is still second to none. If the balance tilts too far without acknowledgement, friction could surface. Hamilton is proud, but not inflexible. What matters most to him now is legacy, leaving Mercedes, whenever that comes, on terms that honor his impact. His era may be nearing its close, but he's determined that it ends with dignity and without silence. Mercedes has entered a transition phase, quietly, deliberately, and without spectacle. The statement, "couldn't wish for a better number one," wasn't just about George Russell. It was about evolution. In a sport driven by milliseconds, adapting before others do is the key to staying ahead. Russell represents that future. Not because Hamilton has failed, but because the demands of the sport have shifted. Consistency, adaptability, and long-term strategic alignment are now more critical than ever. Hamilton's legacy remains secured, etched into the fabric of Mercedes history. But the team is recalibrating, not abandoning its past, but aligning with its future. Toto Wolff's leadership, the garage's technical shifts, and the media's growing narrative all point toward a subtle but decisive change. This isn't about replacing a legend. It's about recognizing when a new one begins. In Russell, Mercedes sees not just a driver but a philosophy, measured, sharp, forward-facing. And in that vision, they're building their next chapter, one calculated,